Hello everyone and welcome back to the lush jungle biomes of the Brightworks. Today we are taking a look at a map called Rust Crown Canyon. Let me show you that real quick. Rust Crown Canyon version 1.2, very interesting map. It's a lanes map with a backline. Usually those seem mutually exclusive here, but in this map specifically, it does end up being possible that you have frontliners playing their hearts out, vying for control over the metal extractors that are out on the map, as well as backliners that are contributing support, usually in the form of tech, but sometimes doing something a little bit cheekier. And these commanders, there are 16 of them, and they are all vicious. They're going to be going out on the map right away, trying to get a control over a lot of this territory here. You can see that the only way that you expand your economy is by pushing forward along specific paths. That's what makes it a lane map, as opposed to, I guess you would call it a surface area map, where there's a wide square and there's just metal extractors everywhere. So think all that glitters is I would call a surface area map. But anyways, on the western side here, the eastern side, representing the blue team, it's going to be the White Dragon. No E on that, so it's just the White Dragon. The E being gone really messes that up for me. I almost read it as the Witted Dragon. Good start. Anyways, spawning on the entire opposite side of the map, spawning here on the northwestern side, is representing the red team, coming in that Armada, or rather that Cortex uniform here. It's going to be Zop Maxima. Zop Maxima going for that vehicle bay. Interesting start here for the backliner on the northern half here. Although I guess, vehicles make sense. I'm just questioning it because he's in the backline. He must have something interesting planned, planning on contributing to the front line rather than just teching up right away, which I think is probably going to make his teammate here, Bare Metal, a little bit happier. Bare Metal has gone for that bot lab, and I don't mind that to get the res bot out, but of course it is going to mean that if you're going up against vehicles, you're going to have a really hard time. The other side of the map, going right up against him, is going to be Graham as well as Sunnyside. So again, another bot lab and vehicle lab. I actually really like the composition there. Yeah, actually, I think those unit mixtures are going to complement each other very, very nicely here. So that might be a really nice tactical decision here. If Sunnyside is thinking the same thing and is going to just pump out units to help his teammate and make sure that the economy stays booming. Right now, bots and rovers, grunts and rovers, I should say, making their way across the map. We also have a blink that was produced here, and it's going to start swinging its head all the way around, trying to get a read on the red team. Currently, this is the blue team's current vision range right now. You can see what they see. And this is an excellent scout right now, revealing exactly the positions of every one of these players. Eventually, that scout will be shot down, but not before revealing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-ish of these players here. Nicely done by that. Going to be a phenomenal intelligence gathering right there. Now, the other interesting thing about this map is, of course, this river that spans the entire midsection of the map. You can see you can really float units all the way down across the entire length of the map. There's going to be some interesting naval shenanigans going on right there. Naval player for the red team, rather, is going to be Chicken Tasty. Already going into a couple of those tidal generators. 25 tidal power, well worth getting into the water for. Wouldn't even mind seeing some of these land-based players paying Chicken Tasty for a amphibious constructor just so that they can get some of that juicy tidal power as well. Doesn't take too long for a couple of tidal generators to really pay back themselves, especially with those slightly more efficient, I was going to say efficient, but slightly more efficient energy converters that you get when you're in the water as well. Going up against him is going to be Gondevious, and oh, interesting. So Gondevious has gone for a hovercraft lab. That is an interesting choice here. Hovercraft, of course, are not quite as strong as the naval units are. They don't have as much HP, they don't do as much damage, but of course on a map like this, you can dip, dodge, dive, duck, and dash away into whatever corner of the map that you wish to, because those units can of course transition from the water into the land. Very, very interesting choice. I'm excited to see if that's going to pay off here. Going for a little bit of build power, I think that's the right idea. Also using the commander to capture some of these metal extractors, that's a great move. What I wouldn't mind seeing is maybe some of these hovering or these floating walls, floating barriers. A wall seems like a land-based thing. Fortification, that's what they're called. A naval fortification. Wouldn't mind seeing some of those naval fortifications built up there, just because those are, of course, going to allow you to forestall any interesting dolphin pushes or, well, anything really that floats on the water. Okay, we are going into Navy here. Interesting. So we just went for the rocket hovercrafts. Not unbelievable. Those rocket hovercrafts are very, very strong. They're the earliest you can get a rocket unit, or a quote-unquote rocket unit, right? I'm not talking about the Rocketeers. sort of a different class of rocket unit. I mean, units that launch a rocket straight up in the air that sort of heat seeks down. That's a nice little pick there. Pawns find an opening where the constructor was unguarded here, taking a metal extractor down with them. That's a very, very nice trade right there. Very efficient. Meanwhile, Shy Vizzy, almost said Shank Vizzy. Shy Vizzy here is going to take a little bit of damage on the commander here, down to just 61% health from that pounder that was firing away at him. Rocket bots are going to, rocket bots are going to be contesting these incisors here. Not a great trade here. Nice D-gun there. Can he get two more? I don't think so. So vehicles, of course, are going to be an interesting choice on this little hillside over here. Nice D-gun. Can we see another one? He's charging up. PG does not have the energy for it, not all at once anyways. Vehicles are going to be nice here because it is mostly flat land, but still you're going to be in a little bit of a weird spot once you lose too much ground here. I think the blue team is gearing up for a better position, at least on the southern side of the map. You can see they're holding just a little bit further forward than the red team is, and I think that line is going to allow them to claim some of these metal extractors that rest right in the middle of the map here. You can see these metal extractors are not exactly perfectly balanced, so whoever has map control in the middle is going to actually have a little bit more metal in their pockets. This pounder is so critical to shutting down these tanks. You can see it just stalling them endlessly here as they try and climb up this hill, but takes so much damage just because of the fact that they can hardly move. The riot tank does have a little bit of impulse on its attack. That's the term we use for when the, or at least I use, when the attack slows and stuns the enemy, dazes and confuses them. Graham building a little light laser tower up here that's actually quite nice. Gonna snipe one of those Wolverines. Take that out of commission, sure, why not? Bare Metal gonna move forward here. Wouldn't mind seeing rather a choke point set up right along this massive, wide open choke point. That'd be pretty nice. Get some laser turrets in there. Looks like he's going to set up a little further back. I guess I don't hate that whatsoever. Using a little bit of this natural terrain deformation, I suppose, but the height advantage on that terrain in order to slow down some units, probably allowing those laser turrets to fire a couple extra times. Might not be a lot, but it might be enough. Heavy laser tower. The Warden was built down here. Very powerful, of course, able to outrange those rocket bots, so it is one early way to shut down that sort of push. As you can see, these rocket bots quickly falling under the fire of this green-eyed menace. Janices are out now, and those are also another excellent way to shut down rocket bots, or essentially any bots. If the bots are clumped up together, those Janices can quickly dismantle essentially anything that are thrown at them. Shy Vizzy in a little bit of trouble here. Looks like a gunship was produced. Interesting. Gunship's not exactly ideal because there are these anti-air rocket trucks incorporated into this mixture here. So until you have enough gunships to really vastly overwhelm those missile trucks, you're not going to have a great trade against them. You being Custom Killa 010. Parishala has done a great job of capturing this island here, and it is incredibly important that all the metal extractors get eaten up. Currently, the red team, despite the blue team's positional advantage, right, they're pushed up pretty far forward here. The red team just has captured all of their metal extractors. They have all the metal extractors over here, have all the ones over here, and all of that is essentially going up against the unclaimed metal extractors right here. And that's eventually going to add up here. We can see in the economy section, well, currently the red team is reclaiming quite a lot, but roughly speaking, the red team is at an advantage of about 114 metal, 120-ish metal versus 110-ish. Not a lot, but it doesn't take too much to quickly overwhelm your enemy here. Yeah, we're going to have to pull these gunships back. Do we have a repair pad? It would be a very expensive thing to go into to get a repair pad out by now. I think for now, these are just going to have to settle for construction turrets, patching them back up. Yeah, those gunships are going to be pulled off the front line pretty quickly here. It's not to say that those gunships couldn't get some value out, though. There's certainly areas where those gunships could do quite a lot of damage. Up north, for instance, we could see those gunships try and snipe Graham's commander, who is just hanging out alone, essentially by himself out here. I mean, there's a light laser tower, not to be discounted here, but yeah, the commander is looking very weak and very alone, and I wouldn't mind seeing those gunships fly up north to try and maybe get a snipe on that commander. We also see Parishala's commander. Oh no, sorry, that's a friendly commander. Don't snipe your friends. Not cool. Missile truck just slowly whittling away on this mace. He called for reinforcements hours and hours ago, but yeah, just none will come. Not for him. We're scraping the paint off of this unit right here, but it's all it takes over time in order to eventually completely kill it. Going for a dragon already, wow. Dragons cost 5,100 energy, 72,000 Sorry, 5,100 metal, 72,000 energy. That is a vastly expensive unit to go into, especially considering the relative fragility of those, where even a bunch of T1 fighters are going to be able to shoot down a dragon quick enough that you would feel like it was wasted. Yeah, I don't like that one bit. I really don't think that's the right move here. Gonna eat up his T1 constructor here. Yeah, 9 metal per second. I really think a T2 constructor, get these metal extractors up and running, that would probably work out a whole lot better. T2 is already up and running for Peachy. Not sure why we're going up to T2 for Smiles back here. I think getting a T2 constructor from Peachy would probably be a little bit better use of metal, at least at the time being. Use that metal to upgrade your metal extractors. In fact, I'm kind of surprised with the lack of T2 metal extractors all around here. Looks like Zop Maxima is the only one going for those T2 metal extractors. Everyone else is still a little bit stuck on that T1. The propagation of T2 essentially always determines who is going to be the victor in one of these games. Now, despite that, there is no T2 transition here for the blue team. Not that I can see anyways. No, I don't. Yeah, there's no T2 out for the blue team. Interesting. So the blue is going to stick around on T1 a little bit longer, whereas the red team is already working on that T2. So despite the lack of the propagation of T2 constructors here, it's not the end of the world because, well, the blue team is just a little bit further behind. I mean, of course, you can see that the red team is paying for that difference with their positional advantage here being taken away from them, as the metal extractors are now vastly under control of the blue team. But that does mean that the tech advantage was able to transition here. Sort of nonchalantly, actually, now that I think about it. The tech transition usually is signaled by your enemy losing a lot of units, and then, or you losing a lot of units, and then you see them not rebuilding, right? You don't see reinforcements continuing to stack on their units. Here we have essentially just had static defense, so we haven't had much of a way to gauge whether this defense is growing or not. Agitator was built here, but it's a little bit blocked by this heavy laser tower. Peachy was not expecting an engagement from this angle, and so this commander is a little bit blindsided by all these rocket bots now walking their way up these hills. Now, the Wardens are doing a fantastic job of blasting down a lot of these units right here. Peachy is getting a D-gun charged up here. Commander goes down. That's a bit unfortunate here. Agitator will be firing away at whatever it can. Gunship's also going to start taking a stand here. Getting on top of that commander is very nice. Oh, they certainly could kill that commander, I would think. Yeah, I think they definitely could have killed that commander. Those were only light tower or light anti-air towers. They could have also killed the light anti-air towers and then just sniped the commander. That would have been well worth it. Could have shut down a lot of this push. There was also the constructor here that's going to be eating up a lot of the metal. So despite not maybe being able to eat up that metal on their own, it is going to deny the economy to your opponent here. Things to think about when you have the resources under your control here. Okay, thank goodness. We did cancel that dragon far too soon to go for a dragon there. We are eventually going to make our way into the T2 metal extractors. We are stepping up the era. Now we have too many T2 constructors here. We have 2 of them. I think one should be handed over to Smiles. Rocket bots making their way downtown. Walking slow. Faces glow. They are not homebound. Blue team expressing a massive advantage in the southern. The red team expressing an equivalent advantage up on the northern. And both of these teams are vying for some sort of opportunity wherein they can push into the other. Substantial navy has been built here. In fact, substantial naval engagements have happened all around here. You can see the wreckages of these bodies are laying all around. My only question is why Chicken Tasty isn't using these res subs to eat up all of this juicy metal sitting around in his mid-line. Certainly these res subs could just eat all of this up. That's a solid 3.3 thousand metal. Eating all that up could certainly fund a T2 transition, if not just a massive naval growth, right? Just a naval investment that could be redoubled as you continue to use that investment to sink more ships, eat more ships, and eventually hang on to a huge positional advantage. Tech, position, or army. That's kind of your 3 advantages you have to consider. You're either in a better spot than your enemy, you either have more units than the enemy, or you have better units than the enemy. That's kind of how it goes. Naval units are way better against land units, or way better than land units, by the way. That's why these frigates are so eager to jump on top of what seems like an equivalent army. No, those naval units will actually take a fantastic trade against a lot of those ground-based units here. It's actually a really, really nice move. Anti-air bots are included here to shut down some of these light gunships. It's one of those reasons why I don't like those so much, is just how fragile they are. And you can see them being shot down by frigates of all things here. Res subs are finally going to start eating up a whole bunch of those wreckages there, thank goodness. And it is going to be a tech transition out of Chicken Tasty. Okay, I was waiting to see. T2 transition is almost complete here for Zop Maxima, as he is getting the last of his advanced metal extractors up and running. You can see him upgrading this one right here. He's going to be upgrading this one as well. His orange teammates metal extractor is going to be upgrading this one and this one and this one. All of the metal extractors down the path, very nicely done. Going to mean that him and Bare Metal have an excellent opportunity to push in here. That's a poison arrow, and I'm contemplating whether it's going to be worth it or not. The poison arrow is the Cortex equivalent to the bull, or the Cortex counterpart, I should say. Not exactly equivalent, but it is similar. It fires a massive slug, and it does a lot of damage. It just fires a little bit slower. It's a very, very powerful unit. It's very tanky as well, so that's always worth considering. The question is whether they're going to get any value out on the northern side of the map. I really am not sure. I think probably going into something a little bit more long range, like the Negotiator or even a Tremor for the same cost as two of those poison arrows, more or less, might serve you a little bit better. Nighthawks are out, those T2 fighter planes. Very, very good, especially against the T1 fighters. If you can catch them on the right angle, you can eviscerate a T1 fighter wall with just a couple of T1 Nighthawks. Those are the T2 artillery, those Quakers. They fire a low, slow, heavy round, and whenever it lands, it does big, big damage. I really think we should be pushing forward here. No reason to relieve the pressure off of Graham. I think Graham should really be punished for keeping a bunch of T1 units on the line for so long here. For the red team, it has just allowed the opponents to go up to a T2. As you can see, Graham is now just going leisurely into a T2 lab, as his backline has already got a T2 laboratory up and running and is going to be starting up T2 advanced metal extractors. In that sense, a massive advantage for Zop Maxima, who already has a fusion reactor and he's getting to work on a second one. Can always eat up these T1 advanced solar panels, of course, funnel some of that metal into the advanced fusion, or the regular fusion reactor, or an advanced fusion reactor, whichever one it is. Just important to always remain cognizant of what you have on the field and how it can be realigned into a more efficient version of itself or something else. Mausers plus Bulls. It's a potent combination. And you can see those T1 units melting away. Both of these units are extremely high damage. The Bulls have a lot of health as well, so they act as a perfect buffer, giving you enough vision to showcase, or well, to highlight, I should say, the enemy units wherever they should be lingering. Banishers, of course, very good as well. They fire a long-range rocket. They recharge relatively quickly. I think they recharge quicker than the Janus even. It's a heat-seeking rocket too, so once it fires, it's you're gonna be in a bad spot. You're not gonna feel well if you survive. That's a big if. Shy Vizzy is not on T2 yet. That is a huge problem. Shy Vizzy definitely should have been given a T2 constructor at this point, especially considering that we've already made a lot of T2 constructors out of this T2 lab right here from Peachy. We already have the T2 lab back here. We have T2 back here, although we don't anymore. We must have used it to go into the economy, so that's quite nice. Yeah, when one of your teammates is down the tech advantage, you really need to you need to hustle to get them back in the game, because their T1 is just going to trade so inefficiently, and you'll be thinking, man, I'm producing a lot of metal, my teammates are producing a lot of metal, where is it all going? And it turns out all of the metal is being wasted on disfavorable trades from T1 to T2 armies. Graham saying top about to break, and he's not wrong. He's actually reading this situation correctly. He knows that there's a lot of T2 out that's going to start beating on his door very, very quickly, very soon. And he knows that he is in a world of trouble if he can't get the right units out in the right place here. Graham is just waiting on the T2, I do believe. Yeah, it looks like a T2 was eventually handed out here. I'm not sure where he got that, but it's taken a long walk, so it must have been from a ways away. It's a Cortex T2 bot. Where on earth did he get that from? For the life of me, I can't figure out where that T2 Cortex bot could have even come from. I guess it must have been his, but why was it walking up this ramp over here? I am so confused. But either way, finally getting some T2 constructors down. T2 metal extractors, that is. And that will signal the start of a T2 transition here, but it's so late. 20 minutes into this game, we should definitely be seeing a proper economy set up to go up to T3. Banishers are looking for a good trade. Mausers would not be a bad target, especially when the bulls aren't super far out in front. At this point, the Navy has spiraled quite heavily in the favor of Chicken Tasty, who is, again, using those T2 units to trade out for even more high power units. These res subs definitely need to get into action here. Again, thousands and thousands of metal lying around in the middle of the map here. He just needs to go collect it and spend it all, and that's going to be a really nice, easy victory for him. Submarines would be the name of the game here. We have a whole lot of frigates and not a lot of destroyers here. Well, I guess we do have a lot of destroyers, we just don't have them on the front lines. So yeah, I mean, if you could, for the time being, get some submarines underneath all these frigates, you're going to be in a really nice spot. Gandevius instead went for paladins, and that was not the right maneuver. They just don't trade particularly well here. And these units are making a mad dash towards the base of Gandevius. He's trying to use his commander there to shut this down, but those destroyers are just ravaging everything that they happen to be passing by. A lot of damage is being done by some of the offshore units. Will it be enough, though? These torpedo bombers having a really hard time. They tend to drop their bombs on land. Let's see if we can catch them doing it. Yeah, there you go. They don't really know how to regulate. Sharpshooter's not a bad answer here. Those will pop those units pretty quickly. Not the best answer, but not a terrible answer, and you can see now that the wreckages left in that push here could easily fund Gandevius' army if he manages to reclaim all of them. So that's why the Navy swings so badly, is because you lose one engagement and your enemy throws all that metal back in your face and you take it on unfavorable grounds. Yeah, you're going to be in a really tough spot. Static defense is one of the only positive trades in a naval battle, and that's why oftentimes when you lose a lot of Navy like that, you're sort of forced to back up to your static defense in order to make up the difference in the metal that you lost already on the other side of the map. Yeah, throwing Buccaneers one by one is not going to work here. Honestly, a swarm of boats would probably work better here. If you just got a bunch of gunboats running past here, now that you know that he's producing paladins just one at a time, big bundle of gunboats could swarm past really quickly and tear down the economy on that side of the base, and it would be a huge boon to Chicken Tasty. Chicken Tasty is going for a little bit of an economic boon here. He is going into a fusion reactor, an underwater fusion reactor of all things, and so that energy will be going back to him. Now, this is not efficient. Again, these fusion reactors are not efficient when the tidal power is over 21. Right now it's 25, so it's even further less efficient. That sentence didn't really make sense, but you get what I'm trying to say. Don't go for fusion power, go for more tidal generators. You have all of this space over here that you can just fill up with tidal generators. You can of course put them in this area as well. Anywhere you can, just cram in tidal generators and you're going to be in a way better power position than you would be if you crammed in fusions. Fusions of course a little more space efficient, but what is space efficiency in the face of winning or losing the game, right? Interestingly, these engineers here, the Voyagers, going to be going for some offshore static defense. That's an interesting decision. Not the end of the world, but quite interesting. Eating up a lot of this metal, though, and that's really nice. That's what we like to see. Going for a capital ship now. Why? No. Oh, that's no good. Yeah, that capital ship going down. It's definitely not the. That's not the outcome we're looking for here. The capital ship is a very expensive metal sink. You really just dump metal into it whenever you are at a crazy surplus. There are way more efficient, way more economic ways to get some sort of an advantage here. Lightning turret's doing a phenomenal job. Wow, repelling even those T2 forces using their little burst lightning attack there. Welders too traumatized to push in. They saw lightning coming back at them. They never had to deal with that before. I said, lightning? That's our thing. How could you do that? Smiles in the bottom left-hand corner is going for a fusion reactor. In fact, he's going for a second fusion reactor. What's the economy look like? Okay, so we need more energy converters. Right now, a little bit shy on the energy conversion. Wouldn't mind seeing eat up some of these solar panels since we are so rich in the energy and so low in the metal. Eating up these solar panels could be one way to easily fund the rest of this fusion reactor, plus probably leave you with a little bit left over to get a couple of those advanced energy converters down. Looks like 3 of them are planned out. That's a good number. I would say you could even push for 4. And then you're essentially set up to go for that advanced fusion reactor should you think that that is necessary. Which you should, most of the time. So at the very least, we are going to eat up whatever wreckages were left over in the water here. Eating up a commander corpse, always nice. The White Dragon's commander did go down here, and that is going to be a tasty 1,000.750 metal left in the bank of Chicken Tasty. And the fusion reactor has come up and online. We're now producing energy aplenty, as well as a aircraft carrier, the anti-nuke, more specifically. That's more commonly the use for it, but it does also function as an anti-air or an aircraft carrier, an aircraft repair pad. Oh, this is so nice. Please don't pull those flak turrets back. Those flak trucks rather are doing an excellent job of thinning out the air wall here. You can see just being underneath the air wall for just a few seconds means that they are going to do an immense amount of damage here. Finally, the fighters are pulled, but you can see that air wall has been thinned dramatically. And yeah, there's hardly any air support left here, and it does mean that our pink player, our light pink player, who has been going for dragons this whole time, is going to eventually have an opening to set those dragons in. Wouldn't mind seeing him go up north here, of course, where that air support is, so that those flag trucks rather can melt down whatever units are sent in the direction of that attack. Blue is looking pretty far forward here. I really can't read this match. It's so back and forth. This is such a nice little push here on the northern side of the map, but at the same time, I think the red player waited just a little too long, and green finally got those T2 units out, and it was just a little too much to, well, for the red player to handle. It was just enough for the green player to hold on. Tigers are going to be pushing up this hillside along with a bunch of banishers that are going to start slamming down on whatever is up on top of this hill. Smiles is moving the commander forward, looking for the Miracle D-Gun. He does get 3 of those tanks. Can we see another one? Oh, he doesn't want to get hit by those banishers, but he already took the hit. Oh, that hurts so badly. Those banishers whittling off, what was that, about 1/3 of his health with every single hit. Oh, down he will go. Those banishers, man, they are powerful. Dragons are coming in here. Banishers actually can shoot up into the air. Not a terrible option against the dragons. Not a perfect option either. I'm sure a flak truck would probably do a little bit better. Tremor was built up here. That's very expensive to lose on the front line. Those dragons are so annoying to deal with. What on earth do you do to counter those dragons? I mean, the most reasonable counter is you just get 400 fighters and you send them into the dragon's face. But that doesn't really feel very efficient, does it? I mean, I guess at 5,000 metal apiece, you don't have to be too tremendously efficient. At least to trade effectively, that is. Rocket trucks firing away into oblivion, trying to dig a hole through the middle of Rust Crown Canyon. T1 vehicle's not going to stand very long, but the T2 will manage to push a little bit further forward here. Those bulls fire quite a bit faster than the poison arrow, so that's why I'm hesitant to say that the poison arrow is the equivalent to the bull. It's more like the counterpart. It's not exactly the same. Those wreckages making it extremely difficult to push through here, though, and you can see that those bulls will go down essentially because of the fact that they did not have a way to back up. Reverse gear is one of my favorite experimental settings here. Also, who is that that's completely stalled on, or completely overflowing metal at the moment? Looks like it's the blue player. Our blue player, the White Dragon, does need to go for a lot more build power here because he just doesn't have a way to spend all of that juicy metal that he's got sitting in his back pocket here. Bunch of fighters do eventually jump on top of those dragons, and that's gonna hurt. Those dragons can take a punch. Yeah, not enough was committed. There was just too many fighters from the pink player, and the dragons do manage to survive. Those T1 fighters, just not enough to deal with the dragons. Bombers thinking about jumping in on this too, but again, those T2 fighters are more than happy to shoot down those bombers very, very nicely. Very quickly, I should say. Just a few shots. I think it's 2 shots in order for them to melt down one of those bombers, and that's a very, very nice trade right there. Dragons, of course, the superior gunship. They fire a heavy laser, and they fire 3 of them, so they are extremely, extremely dangerous. You have to watch out for them. A swarm of dragons is a very hard thing to stop. Flak truck now incorporated here and going to start whittling away at these guys. Again, you also need tons of flak trucks, though. The flak doing 1%-ish damage. Finally have multiple flak trucks here, but man, those dragons, they're so infuriating to play against. Dragons are the one unit that I would say is probably worth investing in an air repair pad. Flak trucks up here are going to shut down all of these bombers that were sent to try and deal with this push. That's going to be the purple player losing essentially all of their fighters here. There's a couple that are still leaking out of the labs here and there. But yeah, I think that's going to be essentially the northern side lost. There is a bulwark here. Bulwark's very powerful. They do have a beam laser weapon. They have 3 of them actually, 4 of them actually. And they are able to fire with devastating effect. Heavy laser tower, of course, very powerful, but also that pulsar beam. The blue lightning, as it's called. Nice little chain reaction there. Flak truck's just shooting down anything before I can even get reasonably close there. We have a little bit of a swing. Yeah, the blue team just trying to push in on the southern side while the red team is pushing in on the northern side. Both teams vying for a little bit of leverage, a little bit of an advantage in either direction that they can. This pulsar is being quite annoying. It's shutting down any of these units that are just going to leak through here. Pulsars, of course, do a massive amount of damage, but really just in one little burst, right? Like, they can't deal with a big swarm of units, and that's why ticks or grunts or even just a pawn spam are very, very effective at shutting off a pulsar effectively. Rascals were built. Well, are currently being built. All the way back in the main base of the red player. And you can see that those rascals are slowly leaving the construction facilities here one by one. And it's going to be a nice way to gain a little bit of intelligence on the front lines. Allows for those artillery to fire away a little bit more consistently. And also, of course, it means that you're going to waste a lot of the shots coming out of this bulwark. T2 lab was shut down. That's, of course, a very, very nice pick. Going to mean that the light green player here, the what is that, like seafoam green player, is going to have a really hard time getting themselves into anything relatively technologically sophisticated. The southern side is holding for the red team. They just need to hold on for this northern side to collapse. The orange player has essentially stepped off the mountain. Interesting. Yeah, all of his economy is up here on top of the mountain, but the commander is playing down south here with some of these T2 constructors, and you can see the defenses have eventually collapsed for the green player, the dark green player who was holding here. So the green player went here, the orange player went here. I guess that's kind of just how it goes, right? The Parishala Parishala is the player that this lane should have belonged to, but I guess just not really focused on that. I mean, Bare Metal is just building static defense. The units are actually Parishala, so I guess it's a team effort right there. Bunch of bombers coming in here, though. Ooh, they adjust their targeting systems and do realign to connect with those energy converters. Very nicely done. Oh, I think they spotted the advanced fusion as well. Maybe. They're not feeling it, I guess. Oh, we're going after the anti-nuke. Okay. Takes down the anti-nuke. Do we have an anti-nuke charge, or a nuke rather charged? I wonder. No nuke charge for the blue team, so that's a little bit of a hollow dream. Does manage to take out all the energy converters, of course, which is a nice little economic hit. But I don't think it's enough. No, I don't think that's going to be big enough of a discrepancy in the metal output to solve the fact that your entire northern side has collapsed thoroughly. Poison arrows ravaging this entire base, shutting down all of these production centers here, shutting off the metal extractors, and of course, gloriously killing the T1 solar panels. Very nicely done. Now the anti-air is making its way down the ramp here. Anytime they get a chance to, they're firing up into the skies at a bunch of those gunships, those T2 gunships here, also melting away the air wall once again. Very nicely done. Very, very excellently done to include a couple of those flak cannons into your composition, going to make you way, way harder to kill, and of course opening up your lines so that there's just way more options available to you and your air player. good strategic ideology. Flak trucks trying their best again against the dragons, but it's just not enough. Those dragons, man, they are so tanky. Eventually, it looks like one of them might go down here. Maybe a second one if it doesn't pull away fast enough. Yeah, you will get 2 of them. All right, nicely done. That is 10,000 metal down the drain, by the way. I will remind you. And yeah, this is a hefty amount of damage that has been done by the blue team here, pushing through the center of the map but trading their northern side for it. This is a dangerous push, and so it's a matter of who will crumble first. Now, of course, once the green player is out of this match, it's still a matter of collapsing downwards for the red player, who does not really have production in the northern side. There's production on the top western side, the northwestern side, which isn't really ideal for getting those units across the map. So it's going to be a little bit of a trick trying to figure that out. No more unit production back here. The light pink player did not manage to recover at all, essentially, and so that means that these dragons were effectively their very last bastion. Advanced fusion reactors will pop, and that will be all she wrote for the light pink player over here. Now, these units could be pulled back for defense, but we could also counterattack with them. Might not be the worst idea here. Base goes down over here, by the way. Red player, of course, collapsing downwards as quickly as possible. Capital ship getting a nice little trade against these units, though. Does it justify the cost? 17,000 metal? Not yet, but I'll keep you up to date. Oh, this is a close one. This is a back and forth right here. We still have the units pushing in on the middle of the map for the blue team. I think what I'd like to see is this fat boy getting into position somewhere where it can lob away at high ground projectiles here, or high ground statues over here. Get some of those advanced solar panels, get some of these wind turbines, get basically anything that fat boy can shoot away at. I did see sharpshooters at one point. Yeah, it looks like we are including them in the composition. Sharpshooters, very, very powerful. I love to see those on the field here. Pulsars, Starlights, the Pulsar on wheels. Also a very powerful weapon, especially if you keep it in the back line and you don't walk it into the assault units on the other team. Yeah, that's going to be two dead Pulsars very quickly. They definitely didn't get their values worth. They could have, but they definitely didn't. They can easily melt down any of this T2 bot army. They just have to stay out of range of those bots, and they did not manage to do that. A little bit of an APM slippage there, and that's going to cost I have a feeling that's going to cost him this southern section here. Those units were quite the investment, and keeping them alive would have been the utmost priority. Should have been. Sharpshooter's actually a fairly good anti-coastal weapon, just because of how much damage they can do. They're one of the few units that can comparatively heavily hit those naval units right there. Of course, the naval units are prone to shooting back, but what unit isn't, am I right? Gunslingers and welders. It's an interesting composition. I like this little pop-up wall here. Lightning turrets can effectively shoot through each other, so they don't have to worry about cramming together here. Bulls finally get in on this action. They're going to start melting away a lot of these units as well. And you can see the devastation is ultimate. Beyond all reason, one might even say. So gunslingers have this weird niche. They're extremely good against T1 vehicles, and they're fairly poor against T2 vehicles. So they have a weird niche where you essentially want to get them out before your enemy transitions to T2 vehicles, and then you don't want to produce them when your enemy has T2 vehicles. You can see them melting away to these bulls here. The reason for that is just because they do a huge amount of damage against T1 vehicles. They do barely any damage against T2 vehicles, so they're not quite as good once they fall out of their area of expertise here. This dragon does not have the power to fire. I would love to see this handed over to somebody else who could actually use it. Unfortunately, this dragon is just dead space at the moment. I'm impressed with the repulsion here. An excellent effort to repel the invaders coming in from the eastern side. The west team will hold on here. The red team will manage to push them back, if not at least for the meanwhile. So the trick is, how do you kill the naval player, right? You can shoot at all their units. all their ships and everything. But how do you kill them? Well, this is one answer here. Massive bombing run takes out all of the fusion reactors. These bombers are going to retarget here, I do hope anyways. I believe they saw that fusion reactor, at least that one saw that fusion reactor, so they should be able to retarget quite nicely. They see the fusion reactors over here as well, and so they will blast these down before they make their way on over towards the other side. Yeah, okay, we definitely saw the advanced fusion reactor right there. Not sure why we're not going for that one. I guess trying to distribute the damage a little bit here. Going to take out a lot of the energy converters. That's going to shut down the economy here for JOS 12. And I mean, I really think the idea here is we should go for the, there we go for the advanced fusion reactor. Yeah. I feel like we probably have enough to kill this. Maybe not. Fusion reactor's pretty tough, I guess. What a bummer. If those had been targeted just a little bit sooner, I think they would have been able to hold on. See these pulsars again, their effective range is massive and they do such a tremendous amount of damage to really complement any composition that you have, making it just that much more deadly. So impossible to push into them because any unit you throw at them is going to melt away. They don't have the same disadvantage of the static defense pulsar, an example of which we can see right here. This one has to recharge every time after firing. Of course, it does more damage, so there's a trade-off. But yeah, you don't have the same recharge to deal with. They can just fire fairly frequently. That's a tongue twister for you, by the way. Fire fairly frequently. Fire fairly frequently. Fire fairly frequently. That was difficult. Now we can go. The red player does have the opening now. Oh, that's, okay, well, I wasn't sure what I was going to find when I turned my camera back here, but this was not what I was expecting. I was going to say it might be time to go into T3, just get proper T3 production going, get some Shiva out on the field, maybe a catapult or two, eventually work our way up towards the Juggernaut, but I guess 6 vehicle labs is going to be the decision here. Am I a fan? Not particularly. I think that's a very large investment of metal for, I mean, what exactly? Like, we already know effectively where everyone is, and we know what units we're going to need to destroy them. We need something amphibious and something powerful, and that's exactly what the T3 units are supposed to be. I don't think this is the right move here, no. This is also a lot of metal lying in the ground, by the way. 29,000, 39,000, tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of metal lying around on the floor of the world tier, and I think Resbots would be eager to eat all that up. Yeah, it looks like that's the case. That's a hungry swarm of Resbots right there, but yeah, they've got the right idea here. Frankly, they should be rallied in such a way that they just eat up everything. But big old reclaim command over here would be quite nice. Not sure why they're restricting themselves to such a limited area. Commander goes down as a whole bunch of these battleships do push in the despots, and they will be all it takes to collapse this green player's base as his production shuts off, and that's going to mean no more reinforcements for him. The swarm of rascals does collapse over on this side. The blue team's final commander will go down, and that is going to spell victory for the red team. Very nicely done, and a decisive conquering of the Rust Crown Canyon. Very nicely done. GG to everyone involved. Very nicely played there. We even had some nukes that were charged. Never even got to see those. But yeah, you can see Zob Maxima doing a great job of using his eco advantage to, well, further the eco advantage. And that is ultimately, I believe, one of the reasons that the red team was able to conquer victory. That and the fact that their the top 4 biggest eco players were all on the red team definitely speaks to them being a little bit more ahead of the curve as far as eco goes. But anyways, thanks a ton for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. I hope you have a fantabulous rest of your day. I had to choose my fan word there. Fantabulous rest of your day. Hope you get whatever you need to do done, and I hope I will see you in the very next video coming out tomorrow. Peace out.